So, Hogan, do you find a lot of times the president will not speak until John Kelly tells him to?
That is absolutely ludicrous and ridiculous. I've been in so many meetings with the two of those men. The president runs this country. He makes the decisions. He sets the policy, sets the tone, and does all of that at any point in time in a conversation. John Kelly executes exactly what the president wants him to do. We all offer our opinions and suggestions, but it is the president of the United States who runs this country.
Hogan, who do you believe, General Kelly, a Marine general, or Omarosa?
Right, a four-star Marine General John Kelly, who I work with closely every day, who I trust with everything I've got. I believe him 100%. More will come out about this, but the way she characterizes that meeting is completely false, and we'll have more to say on that, I'm sure, in the coming days and weeks. But let's just pause for a second and see what we've got here. This is someone who's disgruntled, who is so self-serving, who has decided to go out and put out false accusations, lies, and has already been proven to be contradictory in her own book. So this is someone with zero credibility in this town, and it's not unique in Washington, D.C. for people to try to make money off of deriding and disgracing Donald Trump. What is unique is someone who leaves the White House like Omarosa, goes on a tour telling everyone how wonderful he is and how much he's done for the African-American community, but apparently telling the truth wasn't paying her bills. So she decided to switch her story to try and make a quick buck, and that I just can't abide by.
And I think the book comes out tomorrow, but she's got tape. We heard the tape of her getting fired by John F. Kelly in the Situation Room, and I know that there is perhaps some legal peril she's in for doing that, violating the rules. But then again, there's a brand new audio tape, Hogan, that they played about 90 minutes ago on the Today Show, where the next day after she was fired, she's talking to the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who says, I'm reading in the paper, I had no idea you were leaving. Too bad that's happening. I feel bad about that. So it's not just that she was recording the getting fired. She recorded maybe a lot of people.
Right. The very idea that a staff member, a former staff member, would go into the Situation Room and attempt to record someone else shows a complete disregard for national security. I can't believe someone would even think about doing something like that. Then on top of that, her character and her integrity have been impugned beyond measure, and now, to add fuel to the fire, we find out she's tried to record the President of the United States on a private phone call. I'm not going to talk about what they talked about on the phone. What I can tell you is the thought of doing something like that to a fellow employee, not to mention the leader of the free world, is completely disgraceful.
Hogan, one thing that they had a conversation with, the general was saying to her, you have basically ethical violations. What are those ethical violations? Why was she fired?
Well, I can't get into the specificity on personnel moves, but listen, the press have reported repeatedly on what she did and didn't do within this White House. You guys know some anchors on network television mocked and derided Omarosa to her face. I can't tell you the conversations I've had with reporters who come into my office and mocked her behind her back. So it's kind of funny now, when they didn't want her on television, gave her no credence or credibility when she worked here. Now that she's turned on Donald Trump, she's the toast of the town. They're giving her time. They're giving her the ability to go out and try and tell a story that is fake, that is not true, and that is full of holes and full of lies. And quite frankly, the media have some burden to bear here, because they're the ones who completely dismissed her for the entire time she was here.
Well, you know, she played a tape of the president the next day after she got fired. The president called her, and she also, that's the recording that she'd had with the president. And he said, what's going on? I didn't even know you were fired. And she's trying to say the president doesn't know what's happening in the White House. Meanwhile, others have said that the chief of staff, that's his job. He went in there and he cleaned house, and he was trying to clean up the White House. What was she really like to work with? What was her personality like, and what did people think of her inside the White House?
Look, I always got along with Omarosa. She was someone that would come to my office periodically, and we'd have conversations and meetings. I didn't see her in too many of the meetings we had with other staff, when we had planning meetings and things like that. I got along with her. But this is someone now that makes me concerned. I wonder if she's recording some of the things we talked about as well. You can't trust somebody who comes into your office and smiles and has a conversation, and then you find out afterwards they leave and they're private citizens. They've been recording this information. The conversations she had with the president, the conversations that I I have the president,
Gotcha,
conversations at Kelly, they're all private. That's ridiculous that you would
Right,
release those.
but is it true or false? Was the president telling the truth? And he said he didn't even know she was fired. That Kelly fired her without telling the president?
Listen, the president makes the decisions in this White House. I'm not going to get into the tick-tock of who knew what and when. What I can tell you is the President Omarosa had a 15-year relationship dating way back to the reality show The Apprentice. The president trusted her and gave his support for her, brought her into the White House to a prominent position, and she's abused that privilege, and that's something that's just horrible. And I think most Americans look at that and say, someone gave you the trust level to come into the White House, work for the administration, try and make America a better place for the American people, and you just completely blew past that, ignored that for your own self-serving interests. It's a horrible thing.
All right, speaking of trust, Hogan, there are a number of Republicans who do not trust the Department of Justice and the FBI because they have been asking for documents that would explain the very origins of the Russia collusion investigation, because it looks like, you know, this guy, Bruce Orr, the number 4 guy at the Department of Justice, he was getting stuff from his wife who worked for Fusion GPS, and he was putting it into the bloodstream of the FBI, even though Christopher Steele had been fired for leaking to the press. So the big question is, will the president declassify these things that all these Republicans are calling for and have been for half a year?
It seems like with every day and every new revelation, the president has proven to be more correct than he was the day before. At the highest levels in the FBI, you've seen bias against Donald Trump and bias for Hillary Clinton. That is something that's unacceptable. The president is a supporter, unequivocally, of all of the rank and file members of the FBI. He wants transparency throughout the process. Congress has been asking for these documents. He wants cooperation.
Hogan Gidley, thanks so much.